Friday, June 22nd, 2012, at about 3:16 in the morning, a newspaper delivery employee reported to Shasta Dispatch for Reading Police there were suspicious male subjects in the area of Canyon Road and Valley View. On arrival at Canyon Road and Valley View, Reading police officers contacted a male subject in the area. Officers learned that he had an outstanding misdemeanor warrant out for his arrest. Officers at the scene believed the subject that they had may not be the one that was the suspicious subjects originally called in. The officers continued their search of the area. They located two more male subjects on Valley View just north of Canyon Road. It was determined that two male subjects were trying to siphon gas from vehicles in the area. During the contact of one of the male subjects, they complied with officers' orders, was handcuffed, and detained. The second male, later identified as Scott Joseph Dean, date of birth 6/20/93, 19 years old, did not obey the commands of the officers. The officers also suspected the two suspects may have been under the influence of an unknown drugs. Later, after the shooting, a used methamphetamine pipe was found on Dean's person. While officers were attempting to place handcuffs on Scott Dean, they saw a knife that was attached with an elastic ACE-type bandage on his arm. Dean then began to resist officers and would not obey their commands. Officers told Dean several times to stop resisting, but he refused. Excuse me. Officers took Dean down to the ground, but then Dean continued to resist and refused to obey officers' commands. Officers used a taser at least 2 times on Dean, but it did not have any effect on him. Dean then came at one of the officers with the knife and attempted to stab him. A Reading Police Department supervisor on scene fired 2 rounds from his sidearm, striking Dean once. Dean then fled on foot. Officers waited for an additional units, along with a canine officer, to arrive on scene to assist them in the search for Dean, who was armed and dangerous. With the assistance of the canine officer, officers located Dean about 700 feet from the initial scene where the shooting occurred. Dean again failed to obey commands. The canine officer released the canine in an attempt to take Dean into custody. With the assistance of the canine, the officers were able to handcuff Dean. He became unresponsive. Officers called for a life support ambulance, and they also performed CPR on Dean, but were unsuccessful. Dean was pronounced deceased on scene by medical personnel. According to witnesses, Dean's struggle with the officers was extremely violent, placing the officers' lives in harm's way. The struggle became a life and death situation when Dean attempted to stab the officers, forcing the officer to fire his sidearm, thus saving his partner's lives. The statements of the 2 detained suspects were consistent with the initial officer statements at the scene. Scott Joseph Dean has an extensive criminal background involving resisting arrest, burglaries, and narcotics. He was also wanted in another state for sexual assault and told witnesses that he would not go back to jail. Dean is also a known associate with a local gang. Dean is not, or was not, on active parole. He was not on active probation, and he was not a person under prison realignment. He had not been recently arrested or released from the Shasta County Jail. The incident occurred within the jurisdiction of the Reading Police Department. After the shooting, using the Shasta County Multi-Jurisdictional Critical Incident Protocol, Reading Police requested the Shasta County Sheriff's Office be the lead investigative agency for this incident. Sheriff's Office personnel were assisted by the Shasta County District Attorney's Office and investigators from the Reading Police Department. An autopsy was performed earlier today. The preliminary cause of death is a single gunshot wound to the chest of Mr. Dean. Results of toxicology will take several weeks. This incident is still under investigation, and when completed, the investigation will be submitted to the Shasta County District Attorney's Office for review. This incident once again reminds us of the dangers of law enforcement that our men and women from all of our agencies face every day. Incidents such as these can quickly change from a contact with a suspicious person or persons to a life and death struggle. Officers never go to work wanting to have to take a life, but realize that they may be forced to use lethal force to protect themselves and the public.